All right, well, focusing then on Nelson Mandela Bay. So whose city is it anyway? The leadership of that metro remains in dispute, with the DA announcing it will challenge yesterday's no-confidence motion against Athol Trollip and the election of a new council speaker. The leader of the DA, Mmusi Maimane, says the process to remove his party from the leadership of the metro was a sham and an insult to voters. He insists that Trollip remains the executive mayor. Nelson Mandela Bay Speaker Jonathan Lawack was removed during the sitting after the DA councillor Mbulelo Manyati abstained during that vote. That motion of no confidence, giving then the ANC, the EFF, UDM and other smaller parties the edge they needed to replace the DA. We are now joined by the man who was elected as Trollip's replacement from the United Democratic Movement, Mongameli Bobani. Good evening to you, and thank you for talking to us this evening. I mean, I have to ask you that question. Whose city is it anyway? Who's in charge of the metro? The DA are insisting you are there improperly.
Good evening to you, and also good evening to your listeners. The person that is in charge of the Nelson Mandela Metro is the person that was elected yesterday by the majority of the councillors. And that particular person is me, Councillor Mongameli Bobani. And therefore, in terms of the Structures Act and what had happened yesterday with regard to the resolution of the council, the executive mayor of the Nelson Mandela Metro is one. It's me.
They're insisting there was no quorum when you were elected.
There was a quorum. There was 61 councillors that were present in that council meeting. The only thing that the DA have done, they have marched and they have run away. They left the council unceremoniously. And there was a quorum in that council meeting. There were 61 councillors out of 120 councillors.
They're also saying this issue is going to hang on whether or not the MEC in the province for COGTA had any right to replace the city manager when the city manager was in fact available to preside over those proceedings yesterday.
Well, they must go and read the Structures Act, Section 36 of the Structures Act. They must read it, and the Act is explaining exactly. We as the councillors yesterday, we could have even elected one of us in terms of the Act and chair the meeting. We could have even go outside and get a person to just come and officiate the meeting. However, if the city manager is not available, we are allowed in terms of the Act to get a person at the higher level, and the only person that is at the higher level is the MEC of COGTA. And that's what we have done.
Johan Metler was available. They're insisting Johan Metler was available. Was he?
Johan Metler was not. Johan Metler was not available. That's the reason why we opted to approach the office of the MEC.
So, is it not true? Because they're insisting that he says he was there. He says he was available.
Well, I don't know. The DA is speaking this today. Tomorrow they speak that. Yesterday they were saying that Councillor Manyati is no longer the councillor of the DA. Has been expelled, and they retracted that statement. In fact, we don't know what had happened to that statement. Today they come with another thing. So they will always come with quite a number of things. The fact of the matter is that they must accept the defeat. They've been defeated, and the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan Municipality is the stability is there, and we are busy, providing services to our people.
But I mean, look, I don't want to harp on this for too long, this issue of Metler being available or not. If he was available, if the DA is able to prove that he was available and was replaced nonetheless by the person appointed by the MEC, surely that's going to strengthen the case of the DA.
Let them go to court. We are waiting for their summonses. Let the court decide about what the lies they are spreading around. I can tell you they know themselves they are not going to succeed. They are spreading lies. The fact of the matter is that We have defeated them. We defeated them when they saw that the speaker has actually fallen, and that's when they started to make tricks. Trollip knows that he was going to fall, and then they ran away. They left the council meeting, and the council meeting continued. Let them go to court. We're waiting for them.
So this issue of Manyati, you mentioned this DA councillor, depending which way you look at it. Of course, the DA says he's been expelled from their party. There's also accusations now from Trollip that he may have received financial inducements to vote with your side.
Well, he must come with a proof. It is their councillor. We cannot interfere into the DA's internal affairs. That's their councillor. He must come a proof if he alleged that that councillor was bribed or he was paid money. He mustn't just talk with you there. Come with a proof, and then if he got the proof, he must go and lay charges against any person that was any people that was involved.
I mean, if we look at, obviously, your participation within that coalition when it was started 2 years ago, you were quite strong along with the DA about change in Nelson Mandela Bay. You've since obviously been removed because of your differences with Athol Trollip. But in terms of the partners you've put together so that you can be mayor, what's changed?
Well, you know, the DA are the people that you cannot work with. Yes, I can confirm that we were in a coalition together. But when we started to raise things around the corruption and around the employment of the people without following the necessary supply chains, and when we exposed the corruption, it seems as if they like the corruption. We started to have problems. We started to have problems with them. And even when the commission, you know, of inquiry that was set up by the coalition partners find out that both of us are wrong, and therefore we must take our egos out. We must work together. He then decided to go to the federal council, and then
so let me ask you
disagree
this,
with the coalition partners. How do you then?
The essence of my question is this. 2 years ago, you were telling voters that Nelson Mandela Bay needed change. So if you're accusing the DA, that's exactly what you were accusing the people that you are now in a power arrangement with in that metro to make you mayor. So what, from the frying pan into the fire?
If you work together as a collective, the most important thing here, you must work together as a collective. There should be not a brother that is bigger than the other, because
so is this then about personalities? Is this about
metropolitan municipality?
So let me ask you, is this then about personalities rather than principle, Mr. Bobani?
It's not about personalities, it's about putting the interest of the residents at heart. There's no winner here. We must work together. There must not be a big brother. We must put the interest of the citizens first before our own personal interest. So that's the principle that we've got to work upon.
People will say it's not principle to appoint someone like Andile Lungisa, for example, in the position of the city's infrastructure MMC portfolio. I mean, he's out on bail for assault.
Andile Lungisa is a councillor. Yes, he was convicted for 2 years. He appealed the sentence. That's why he is back now. That's why he was admitted as a councillor. Pending the outcome of his bail application, then we can be able to say that we must go back to jail. If in fact he goes back to jail. Right now he's a councillor. We have appointed him just because of he's a councillor. A person is presumed innocent up until proven guilty.
Well, he has been proven guilty. That's exactly why we find ourselves in this situation. He was found guilty of assault in that very council chamber. How do you appoint somebody like that if you're saying this is about principle?
But then when he appealed the sentence, I think the judges that were looking at his appeal, that's why they give him the bail application around his sentencing and his conviction, because they foresee that another court might find him not guilty and change that whole sentence. And so I think those judges were actually were sober when they look into that. Now that is outside with the bail, that sentence has been put aside.
Yeah, the issue is about sentencing. It's not about his guilt or innocence. But let's move on. The other question that people will ask you is, how does a party ultimately, the UDM, which you represent, only got, what, 2% of the mandate from residents in Nelson Mandela Bay? They will say that this is surely against what the residents in that metro want.
No. There's no winner here. Neither the ANC have won, neither the DA have won the elections, regardless of 1 or 2 votes that we are having. The fact of the matter is that there's no winner here. So the residents wanted us to work together and we take our egos out. This is what we are doing.
Absolutely there's no winner, and certainly the UDM is not the winner. How does the party that won 2% of the vote essentially have the man, or at least have a man in charge of that metro? With only 2%, you don't have a mandate from the residents.
Well, there's, I mean, we got the mandates from the residents. The fact that the residents have voted us and we're part of the council is...
With respect, Mr. Bobani, how is 2% a mandate from the voters?
We got the mandate as the UTM, from the voters, because the voters have voted for us. Even if we got 2%, we got 1%. The fact of the matter is that we are there representing our people.
There is also a view that whichever way you look at this, the voters and the residents of Nelson Mandela Bay are the ones who are going to suffer because the politicians are fighting, because exactly those egos that you said needed to be put aside have not.
No. The residents will not suffer under this new collective government. We are determined to ensure that we are giving them the services they want. They've been suffering under the DA, and they were toys. The cars were tossed, and the DA never actually was not there for them. Right now, we have given them assurance that we will go where they are. We are not going to wait for them to come to us and make some toys. This is what they want. Even today, they are so excited as of yesterday that there's a new government in charge.
All right, Mr. Bobani, we thank you for your time. We'll obviously be keeping a close eye on the story to see how it develops. That was, of course, the UDM's Mongameli Bobani, currently the executive mayor of the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro. You can, of course, let us know your views of what's going on in that metro. #FullView on Twitter.